It's no secret to anyone who has eyes. The reigning champion Milwaukee Bucks remain one of the most dangerous threats for the 2022 NBA title. And after being blown out by Phoenix in the first regular season meeting between these two teams, they fired back on Sunday, narrowly edging out a depleted Suns squad behind a 44-point performance from Chris Middleton. For Milwaukee, it was a must-win game. Necessary assurance that Middleton and Drew Holiday still have the wherewithal to drag their team to victory even when Giannis struggles. For the Suns, without Chris Paul, Devin Booker, or Cam Johnson, it was not a must-win. But it was a confidence builder, carrying some level of validation that should these teams meet again in the finals, things could be different this time. Now, before anyone accuses me of being on some Homer BS, this video is not at all about how the Suns would be guaranteed to win a rematch. The Bucks remain a highly respected adversary. But now that the season series is complete, let's look at the differences versus last year. Because if you haven't been paying attention, they could be hiding right under your nose. Difference number one, the Suns' ever-evolving approach to containing Giannis. You can't guard a superstar using just one strategy over the course of a 7-game series. They will always make adjustments. Instead, the goal is to put their processing speed to the test by forcing them into difficult and varied decisions. The Suns like having DeAndre Ayton match up primarily on Giannis in order to deter easy transition buckets, but they know that expecting him to do it alone is a fool's errand. That's where wings become pivotal with choosing when to bring help. In this clip, Giannis creates space on Ayton using his off arm, but by the time he spins around for what could be an open jumper, Jay Crowder is already jabbing at the ball. At the same time, Mikal Bridges is filling in the defensive gap, splitting the distance between Middleton and Grayson Allen so that no matter what, he can contest a shot. With no easy options, Giannis decides to let Ibaka post up with decent positioning, but that's a much more palatable shot for Phoenix. That was the initial coverage, but Phoenix changed things up completely in the second quarter. In this clip, they elect to have Mikal Bridges front Giannis, with Ayton lurking in the paint, ready to sag off away from the dunker spot if need be. If nothing else, this mucks up a passing lane and maybe leads to a turnover, if Bridges can get one of his long arms on the ball. But as soon as the pass comes, watch how quickly Ayton moves to meet Giannis at the ball, with everyone else shifting into place around him. Payne sinks to cover the big, and Shamet fills to impede the passing lanes. By the time Bridges recovers onto his new man, this is now just a difficult one-on-one ISO that ultimately goes nowhere. The Suns increasingly have success deploying Ayton in this kind of free safety role, where he anchors the paint but has the freedom to roam and help. It doesn't mean it's foolproof, however, as Milwaukee displays here. Crowder tries to front Giannis, but this time Giannis is a full yard deeper than in the other possession, establishing stronger positioning. In order to avoid a 3-second violation, Ayton is forced to reset his feet outside the paint, but Holiday times that to perfection. The second that Ayton takes a step forward, Holiday's pass goes up to Giannis, and there's no longer time to recover. Milwaukee has successfully bypassed the help, hence the need for constant change before an offense can ultimately figure you out. So far, we've only talked about Ayton, but here's something really clearly different. JaVale McGee and Bismack Biyombo are not Frank Kaminsky and Dario Saric, and the Suns were even daring enough to play those two bigs at the same time. This clip of Biyombo and McGee swarming Giannis in the first half is an obvious highlight of the night. Biyombo was especially impressive on the defensive end, playing high on screen actions and coming up with multiple steals in the process. This clip leads to a made three for Milwaukee, but if the objective is to make Giannis hesitate, then they succeed regardless. Again, we see Mikal fronting and Ayton helping, only the difference is that Biyombo's added presence eats up space and makes Giannis reconsider an all-out assault on the basket. And here's the final result of all this. In 2 games versus Phoenix this year, a 2-time MVP is averaging 18.5 points on 48% shooting from the field. Yes, he can still sleepwalk his way to 20 even in a bad game, and yes, Middleton and Drew are capable of picking up his slack. But the Suns certainly won't win a rematch if more Giannis 50 balls are on the table like in last year's Game 6. And by all accounts, they now have a more sustainable strategy to go towards preventing that. Here's difference number 2. Every supporting piece is just a little bit better for Phoenix. Here's the honest truth. In last year's series, the Suns' offense ran into a wall. We all know the math that 3 is more than 2, but in this case, I'm not talking about 3-pointers and analytics. I'm talking about the Bucks having 3 reliable offensive self-creators, compared to the Suns' lone pair of Chris Paul and Devin Booker. The only way to overcome that difference is by having supporting pieces with reliable counters, and this season, we've seen a hell of a lot of counters. Much has been made of DeAndre Ayton's newly developed hook shot, which he is deploying far more often this season as a kind of small ball destroyer. Ayton scored 28.5 points per game in the regular season series versus Milwaukee, and is proving that if they don't keep a big like Ibaka or Lopez on the floor at all times, he's going to have his lunch. Cam Johnson, who did not play yesterday, has added a ton of confidence to his slashing game, allowing him to be looked at as a legitimate tertiary playmaker for perhaps the first time in his career. Even Jay Crowder is discovering new tricks, such as his uber-dependable floater that forces him off the three-point line from time to time. James Jones made a bet on internal development over swinging for another offensive heavy hitter, and time will tell if that decision pays off. But in the meantime, it certainly looks like the Suns supporting cast is up for the job. And finally, difference number 3. The Bucks are struggling a little bit to fill in their own gaps on the roster. Yesterday's game was played without Brook Lopez and Pat Connaughton, and no doubt those role players would shore up some issues. But even at full strength, Milwaukee still has absences that are being felt, mainly the absence of PJ Tucker as a larger defensive enforcer. Tucker played over 30 minutes per game in the final series, and now most of those minutes are going instead to guys like Grayson Allen. Allen is a dependable role player in his own right, but in many lineups he makes Milwaukee look significantly smaller. This becomes especially relevant the more mid-range isolation scores Phoenix puts on the court. Yesterday, Mikal Bridges played at his best as soon as he had the freedom to target Allen in half-court pick and rolls. Allen, who stands 6'4" with a 6'6" wingspan, did not have the length to put pressure on Bridges' jumper, nor did he have the length to effectively impact plays as a trailing defender. In essence, if this was a problem against Mikal Bridges, just wait until Devin Booker gets a look at him. Allen is also a more favorable matchup for Phoenix on the other end, as he gives an outlet for Chris Paul to hide on a shooter without surrendering countless offensive rebounds in the process, which, if you remember, was the problem against PJ Tucker in the finals. So there you have it. While these two rosters may look 70 or even 80% the same, quite a bit has changed stylistically on both sides, and I will not guarantee you what would happen here in this video if these two teams meet in the finals, but I do believe this. If Phoenix and Milwaukee meet again, they're going to give us one hell of a series. We can only hope that the NBA knows how to market that properly. That's going to be all for me today, guys. I thank you if you made it to this point in the video, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe and share it, as that is the easiest way that you can help us out. If you would like access to extra bonus podcasts every week or weekly live watch parties where you can watch a Suns game live with Mike and myself and share in our analysis in real time, the way to do that is by signing up at our Patreon. I will leave a link to the Patreon and the podcast in the description below. Thanks again. Until next time.